Well, before I get started, anybody got a testimony, song, anything you would like to share before we get into Bible study? And never want to cut somebody short or out of.
Can you tell me that Jeremy?
I guess we passed word along. Teddy killed a black rattlesnake in between the church and the road out here. So, just need, I told Elijah, and, but we just need to make sure, especially with like Jeremy's little ones, you know. I know they like to run around the church and things like that. I just want to make sure, you know, maybe somebody out and check or whatever, keep an eye on with them or whatever, 'cause it's that time of year. So, get everybody, in there with that. But we're over in, John chapter 4, just right there in verse 1, John chapter 4. Thank you,
I
Teddy.
didn't forget you.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and crack it open that way on.
Oh, you need another one,
Yeah. Couple great stories here in John chapter 4. We're probably all going to be pretty familiar with them. With you know, Jesus meeting the woman at the well and him healing the boy with the man of the faith at the end of the chapter. So, but we'll just take off and read verse 1. Everybody can read a verse and we'll see where we end up at.
Chapter 4, John, verse 1. When therefore the Lord knew how the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John.
2. Though Jesus himself baptized not but his disciples.
Number 3, he left Judea and departed again into Galilee.
4, and he must needs go through Samaria.
Then cometh he to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near to the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph.
6. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus therefore being weary with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour.
7. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus said unto her, Give me to drink.
For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat.
9. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am I a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans.
10. Jesus answered and said unto her, If thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water.
11. The woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Whence then hast thou that living water?
12. Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which giveth the well, and drink therefore himself, and his children, and his cattle?
Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again.
14. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in a well of water springing up into everlasting life.
15. The woman saith unto him, Sir, give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw.
16. Jesus saith unto her, Go call thy husband and come hither. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said unto her, Thou hast said well, I have no husband. For thou hast have had 5 husbands, and whom thou now hast is not thy husband. In that saidest thou truly. The woman saith unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. Our fathers worshipped in the mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. I want to stop right there because But that pretty much takes us to the woman at the well. But drop back to verse 1, and when therefore the Lord knew how the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John. You know, this sometimes can catch you a little bit weird about this, but I'm going to read this, my note that I wrote down. Jesus knew and understood it was not yet his time to go into Jerusalem, so he headed to Galilee. Although Samaria was the shortest route, the Jews avoided it because they did not associate with the Samaritans. So as they look at this, and this is going to take us through verse 4, part of what I read right there. But as they make that plan to get through there, verse 2 says, Now Jesus, though Jesus himself baptized not, but his disciples, he left Judea and departed into Galilee, and he must needs go through Samaria. But there in verse 2 and verse 1, all them, verse 1 through 4 together, Jesus himself didn't baptize. He left that up to the disciples to show them the importance of John's work. A demonstration of repentance, cleansing, and preparing for the Messiah. You know, so Jesus didn't want to take anything away from what John the Baptist had started also either, but he did mainly leave that job up to the disciples as they went on baptizing and things. And so they're making their way and planning their trip back to Galilee. And, you know, most of us probably understand this, but, you know, sometimes I'm afraid that I will take something that I think, well, everybody knows that, and then you get to it and they don't know that, you know, which there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, as you look into this, the Jews did not deal with the Samaritans. You know, this goes back, and down in my notes, I've got some more things that goes into a little more in depth about why they didn't get along and different situations that happened and things like that. But, you know, they did not believe exactly like the Jews believed in different things. But, you know, they actually thought less of Samaritans than they did Gentiles. And if you can remember, they thought Gentiles was dogs, you know, and dogs were not beloved like they are now in Bible times. So, you know, this was very good. So, as Jesus already, he says, you know what, I'm going through Samaria. This already sparks an interest of the group and the ones following the different things. Hey, we need to take a route around this to get there, but it was the shortest route, and Jesus knew and understood that that's the route that he needed to take because of what he had going on. I didn't read far enough. That wasn't in my notes. It says, I wrote, the Jews viewed the Samaritans as half-breeds, partly religious people, because of different beliefs. The Jews even burnt their temple around 128 BC on Mount Gerizim. I think I might have pronounced that right. Gerizim. But around 128 BC, they did. The Jews actually burnt the Samaritans built a temple there to worship God in, and the Jews burnt that down. So that created even more bad blood. But
I had even more of on that Mount Gerizim, the temple was to rival the one in Jerusalem.
Yes.
Yeah, because you got one, we got one better, yours, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, and the Samaritans, and I may be off on this, I read this, I don't believe I wrote it down. The Samaritans only took about 5 books of the Bible, I believe, that they used, and they still picked and choose what they wanted out of that.
There's still people who do that.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that still happens.
We have a little bit of that today yet, don't we?
Yeah. You know, this just brings you the view of the Jews and Samaritans and why they didn't get along, you know. And I got to thinking about that, you know, the main story when somebody looks at John chapter 4 is, of course, the woman at the well. And then, of course, the end of the chapter when it gets into another miracle that Jesus performed, but he wasn't even around. But, you know, the woman at the well probably takes over John chapter 4 when you really look at it, you really study. But I got to thinking about these first few verses, you know, we can look at that and still use it today because there's still separation against us today. You think, well, you know, wait a minute, haven't we had the Civil War and all this in America, and we done away with that and segregation and things, but you go to certain places, it's still segregated. It's still different things that go on, you know, and there's still groups of people out here that, you know, these different people don't like these different people, and, you know, it still goes on, you know, and it's just a great example, you know, it says live like Jesus, and I'm sure there was somebody, you know, I could see Peter jumping up and saying, hey, we ain't going through Samaria, or, you know, one of the disciples saying, Jesus, you know, oh, wait a minute, you know, you sure we don't need to let's take this route right here, you know, and we can witness to more of our people, you know, because I'm sure they still had some thought in their minds that they've been growing up their entire life to, we don't deal with Samaritans. We're not going here, you know. And so, as Jesus did this, in which we understand that Jesus is God, and He knew where His plan was going to. But, you know, it's it takes focus on us too sometimes that these situations are still here and situations we may still have to deal with. And I see segregation at work. And, you know, me and Teddy might work together, and the boss likes Teddy more than he does me. You know, we see that all the time. You know, so but you have just many different situations we could look at. Anybody else got anything on verse 1 through 4? I'll get y'all going here in a minute. Verse 5, then cometh he to the city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. You know, of course, they made their way to Samaria, and it's around Jacob's, well, it is Jacob's well. So it is some property that Jacob had purchased. And if you drop back to Genesis 33, verse 18 and 20, and I don't know why I got pulled into this, but I started looking all these things up as I went down through here. But Genesis 33, 18 and 20.
Should we throw in 17 because it mentions Jacob by name?
Yeah, you can drop back to 17, or we will. I'm going to read 17 to the end of the chapter. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built him a house and made booths for his cattle. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. And Jacob came to Shalom, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he had came from Padan and pitched his tent before the city. And he bought a parcel of a field where he had spread his tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. And he erected there an altar and called it Israel. I don't know, I ain't going to try to pronounce that one. The E word there. But you know, the sense of the
But it means the mighty God is the God of Israel.
L-L-Y, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't even try that one. I probably murdered them other words too. But you know, just to think about how long it's been, and you know, this well's been here this long, and there's still plans and works that is happening there as they made their way there. And verse 6 says, now Jacob's well was there. Jesus therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. When you think about that, as I read and studied this again, I really try to put my mind in getting Bible study talk out of it. And but as I got there and I thought about it, you know, how long this well's been there? This well ain't dried up. It's been there since, you know, you think back all the way to Genesis 33. I didn't write the year down there, but now we've got Jesus there, and you know, but as he's been on this journey, you know, they're walking. They ain't riding in a car or nothing. And as they get there, you know, Jesus he's still human. So he's tired. So he stops at the well. He said, you know what, I'm gonna take a break. So he does, and,
He knew that woman would be there before he got there.
that's it, yep. And the other thing in verse 6 that you need to take notice of is the 6th hour, which is about noon. It's about noon, 12 o'clock in the day.
Yeah.
So, and we'll get into that in a minute. Everybody probably knows the meaning behind that, maybe, but maybe not. So verse 7 says, There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus saith unto her, Give me to drink.
I bet she was shocked
Oh, yes.
that a Jewish individual would even address her.
Yep.
I bet she was.
Well, as she gets up there, and I'm going to go ahead, I may get way ahead of my notes, and I may repeat myself as I read back down through my notes, but I'm going to go ahead and say all this. You know, it's 12 o'clock in the day. It's a Samaritan woman, and Jesus is a Jew. Just as Lynn said, the Jew would have not talked to the Samaritan. Even if they passed on the road, there wouldn't have been no hand wave, nothing. They would have passed, and if anything, you know, I look at it was hatred towards each other. You know, I can see one going by and spitting at the other one or something. I mean, they hated these people. And they shouldn't have had that hate in their heart to begin with. But as they do that, the thing about the 6th hour and it being noon, this is not the time when people come to draw water. People came to draw water, it was in the morning. The reason the woman come to draw water at noon is because, of, like we read in the verses after that, she'd been married 4 or 5 times and she didn't fit in just quite right. So she came at noon expecting no one to be there. So when Jesus was there, that was another surprise. She's expecting to come, I'm going to go draw me some water at noon while there's nobody at the well. So when she does get there, well, she's already surprised because guess what? There's a guy sitting here. There is a Jewish guy that is talking to me. And they shouldn't talk to me. And, you know, as I read into this even a little bit more, I know this is in my notes down through here, I have to say it was something I didn't know. But as you talk about Jesus not talking to the woman, it was pretty custom for even if the man that would have been married to her, or just say it was me and Sarah back in that time, I wouldn't have spoke to Sarah out in public, and especially not in the daytime. It was custom. Me and Sarah, the only time we would speak would be in private. You know, it's just, but you know, it's a lot different world then. So all these things adding up to that, and you look at all these factors, Jesus shouldn't have talked to her. He should have, but in her mind, and in her thinking, you know, wait a minute, this man should not be talking to me. Don't talk to women in the daytime. Jews don't talk to Samaritans. Now, why is this guy at the well at noon? I came here when nobody else comes to get water. And so all these things is built up into it.
I know you guys are glad that's changed.
That's how it still is over there. Whenever I was in Iraq, we had to address the household. It was the man. We weren't all allowed to talk to the female in the house.
Yeah, and like you said, those customs are still pretty the same in places over around there. Not so much in America. Is that where we feel? I had to get that one in there, sorry.
No, but you're starting now. Downwards.
But you know, as we get down into verse 7, you know, Jesus did talk to her and he said, hey, you know what? Give me a drink of water. So, you know, this is where it added to, Jesus is tired and he's thirsty. The human side of him is taking an effect right here for a moment. Verse 8, hey, which in this, you know, for his disciples, we're going. Oh.
It's the hot part of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So.
Yeah. I actually meant to research that because that crossed my mind. I was wanting to kind of get a guess on what the temperature would have been at Jacob's well. and I forgot to research it.
If it's summertime, it's somewhere around 115, 120 degrees.
Yeah, so, I don't, and there may be some Bible scholar out there that's researched maybe even the timeline of maybe possibly when Jesus was here and what time of year and things, but it did strike me. I'd be curious to wonder about how hot it was. But there in verse 8, it was just Jesus and the woman. The disciples had went on because they were hungry, and they went on into town to find some. It just tells us to buy meat, but ultimately they're looking for probably anything to eat.
He was there a witness to her.
He was, yes, definitely. Verse 9 says, Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am I a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Jesus answered and said unto her, If thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldst have asked of him, and he would have given her the living water. So you get down to there, and we kind of covered, I got ahead of myself more on verse 9 there, that her asking the question, why are you talking to me? I'm going to go ahead and read 11 and 12. The woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep, from whence then hast thou that living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us this well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? Jesus gives insight on who he is, and the woman points out that he has nothing to draw water with. That was the main 2 points I got out of this. Jesus, when he says, there in verse 10, hey, guess what? If you knew who I was, you'd be asking me for a drink of water, a drink of that living water. So he gives her a little clue here. He's opening the door about who he is, witnessing about who he actually is. And the woman brings out the worldly truth. Well, how are you going to pull anything out? You ain't got nothing to draw with. She's looking at this. She's looking at a man. This brings out a great point right here. Another point that Jesus was 100% human right here. Because she had no indication at that time, that he would have any kind of special powers or anything, right? Because she looks at him and says, you ain't even got nothing to get water out of the well with. So she walks up, she sees just a common man there. And verse 12, the next point, I didn't write this down, but art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us this well? As I read that, it struck me. As Jacob gave us this well, I believe Jacob gave us anything. It's like the story of the scientist. I think I told this one time. The scientist that says, I can do whatever you can do, God. And God tells him, God made man out of dirt. The scientist reaches down and gets him some dirt. And says, I can do that too. And God says, well, wait a minute, get your own dirt.
Yeah, I love that.
Because God made the dirt too. So he's got to make it out of nothing. Oh, wait a minute, I can't do that. And as you get into this point right here, I thought about this woman and how that could affect us sometimes, Jacob didn't give us this church, or this well. As I thought about that, we could look back on the people that originally first built this church right here. Those people didn't give us this church. They worked on part of what God was instructing them in their lives to do. And thankfully they followed God and done what, and we do thank Him for that. But ultimately God gave us this church. And it recalls, I remember praying and thanking God for giving us this building to worship Him in. It's not the greatest building in the world. It's not the fanciest church in the world. We can go down, there's churches that's see thousands of people, looks like a stadium or something for sports or something like that. But you know what? I thank God for this one.
He's in our church, and a lot of other ones he ain't in.
Most definitely.
That's the difference.
Yeah. That is definitely it.
Now, just to be, for the clarification purpose, we are talking Jacob / Israel, right? Jacob who becomes Israel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I already knew that, but I figured might as well go ahead and spit it.
Well, that's what I mean. Sometimes, you know, I try to take that, especially when I write notes down, I try to take that thought out of my head, be like, you know, I mean, you think about Noah's Ark or something, and I tell the story about Noah's Ark. What do you think? I mean, there's people in the world that ain't never heard of Noah's Ark. I mean, sometimes we take that and we think, oh, well, we grew up here in Clay County or Fayette County or whatever, you know, and we just come up in a Bible place, church place, Christian place. And we think, well, everybody knows that. But then I get to thinking, and I think, maybe everybody don't know that. Does everybody know that listens to YouTube? Maybe not. So it's a good point, and if you get a point like that, it's great to bring it up. But how great it is that Jesus gives her a little insight on who he is there to start it off. But verse 13 says, Jesus answered and said unto her, whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. What, you know, Jesus shows up here, they're at the well. So, and we know and understand, you know, he even answers and gives answers to the disciples from time to time of why he's telling these different stories and why he uses these analogies that he uses. And he says, you know what? These people aren't going to understand if I don't use these analogies. You know, he's here with this woman at the well. He knows what she's going to understand. She's here to get water out of it because, hey, she probably is thirsty. And ultimately it was her job probably to come and get water and take it back to whoever she was staying with, wherever she was staying, and we had to have water to survive anyway. So she comes to get this water. It's just, and she understands the thing of thirst. And then Jesus said, you know what? You take this living water, you'll never thirst again. So as he opens up this analogy in which we understand that now today, of course, is faith in Jesus Christ and heaven and everlasting life. And you can tie this into many things of never thirsting again. At that point, but you know, it is great that he uses this and how he uses it in different times, and kind of points out a great point of how there's always something in the Bible to tie in anything that goes on in our lives these days. It may not be exact, but there's an example there somewhere.
The other thing that strikes me in this story, and it maybe just be me reading into it, but it's also clear in him talking with this woman that she doesn't have to do anything out of the ordinary to accept this water. She doesn't have to bring a fancy pot. She doesn't have to be there at a certain time. She doesn't have to be there. I mean, the whole thing of having a husband there with her or not, there's no, if you do this, then I will this.
Yep.
So, I mean, it is freely given.
Yep.
Just for the asking.
It is. And you can receive it that way. And of course, verse 15, the woman's going to come back. The woman saith unto him, Sir, give me this water, that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. I wrote in my notes, hey, I'm up for this. I'm up for some of this water. She came at this time because the next few, that's where I got ahead of my notes. I'll go ahead and read it. She came at this time because of the next few verses. She was ashamed of the life she had lived. The regular women came in the morning when it was cool, but because of her history, she had come when she thought no one would be around. But you know, when you think about that, of course, she was thinking about also, ultimately, she's thinking about You know what? I don't want to come get water every day. Hey, give me some of this water you're talking about. I don't ever thirst again. That'd be great. Some kind of miracle you perform or something. 'Cause I don't know what was going through the lady's head at this time. You know, this is before we get into these next few verses, but I can imagine, you know, hey, sure, I'll take a drink of this, give me some of this water that I never thirst again. Whether she understood that to be what it was at this time or not, she does understand it later, for sure, because she runs and tells everybody. But even at that, it would have been a great time. I mean, if somebody come in and offered us, said, "Hey, you know what? I got this living water and this living food. You drink this one time, eat this one time, you never have to fool with that again. Live the rest of your life." I want some of that. And we all want some of that living water, right? Now that we understand what that living water is Jesus Christ and what He done for us on the cross and made a way for us to be in heaven. Amen to that. So, now this is where Jesus gives her a little test here, doesn't He? As you look into this next verse, Jesus saith unto her, "All right, go call thy husband and come hither." He already knew what their answer was going to be, but He tested her out.
I think that's whenever she realized who He was.
Yep. As he perceives these next few verses, verse 17, the woman answered and said, "I have no husband." Jesus said unto her, "Thou hast well said, I have no husband." She passes the test. She answers truthfully. Verse 18, "For thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. In that saidst thou truly." He tells her her life history pretty much right there. And brings up her sinful past that she had lived. Verse 19, the woman saith to him, "Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet." It's a pretty good guess, man. Yeah.
In the words of modern days, duh.
Yeah. The light switch has definitely came on now. Because she's ran into a total stranger in the middle of the day when he shouldn't be there. He's a Jew, shouldn't be talking to me because it's Samaritan. He's a guy, shouldn't be talking to me because it's daytime. He's not my husband. Many factors going in here. So she's come to, you know what, I think you might be a prophet. And verse 20 says, "Our fathers worshipped in this mountain. Ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship." And right here in verse 20, she's probably trying to change the topic from her sinful past and kind of throwing out a little, it's like taking the fishing lure and tossing it out there. So, well, wait a minute, Jesus, you say we ought to have worship here. She's trying to change it. Jesus don't take a bait though, sorry. Verse 21 says, Jesus saith unto her, "Woman, believe me, the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain, nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. Ye worship, ye know not what we know, what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship Him. God is a spirit, and they that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth." Jesus points out here that the place doesn't matter because of the work He is here to fulfill. We will be able to worship anywhere in the spirit because God is a spirit. You know, and you think about that, and Jesus gives her that answer there. She already knows something's up because she says, "You know what? I think you're a prophet." And Jesus gives her the answer. He doesn't really change the subject. He gives her an answer to her question, but he keeps the subject more turned to her.
She kinda comes out with a grievance, right?
I hate to disturb you.
Oh,
Stuff
no.
like that.
I'd rather you disturb me than,
Not be able to hear.
yeah, when we get working. We're green. There we go.
Thank
No, don't ever worry about stopping for that. I've told you always just give me the old hand signal or something, I'll bring it back, drop it off, come back. I don't ever want to do that. Where's you at, gave my mind went blank?
She, after she perceived he was a prophet, she kinda comes at him with a grievance. Like, hey, you know, since you're a prophet, why don't we bring this up?
Yeah.
We're descended from Jacob just like you guys are. Why is it that, you know, they worshipped on this mountain? Why do we gotta do it in Jerusalem? What's going on here, guy? And, I mean, his answer's perfect, but it's still that moment where she goes back and was like, well, now I've got a word for you here.
Yep.
His answer's perfect, I love that. Because it always is.
It is a great point though, I mean, ultimately, man, somebody I can complain to, give my problems to. And you think about what he does now. Bring me all them problems. Our only problem is we gotta leave our problems there. Probably ain't one of us does a good job at that. Not a real good job. We might get better or whatever, but taking them problems and leaving them there and forgetting about them, letting Jesus and God handle them is, you know, I can stand up there and preach all day about doing it, but that don't mean that I'm perfect either, that I'm gonna do it all the time, but, it does get that, you know, and, of course, you gotta catch the part there where it talks about, worshiping the Father in spirit and in truth, in which we,
God is a spirit. God
Yes.
is spirit.
I won't say we fully understand that, but we understand it a lot more now of worshiping God in the spirit and faith.
Did you know that the English word worship was originally spelled worthship? Worthship, it says, and it means to acknowledge the truth of the object worshipped. We should acknowledge God's worth in spirit and in truth, in contrast to falsehood. So,
That is it, and I tell you what, you get back, we had the conversation a little bit there this morning in the rack up, somebody brought up, I think it was a guy I work with all the time, and brought up, he had downloaded something and was looking at some Hebrew words and what all they meant and things, you know, so we got on that conversation for a minute, but I tell you what, you fall back on, you know, these other languages, like the Hebrew language, they would have 15 words for, and then it's not exact, but maybe 15 words for the word love. You know, we use love for everything. You know, Ray brought up a great point. He's like, you know, I love eating McDonald's French fries, but also I love my wife Sarah. But that's two totally different loves. You know, and that Hebrew language would have words that was for your wife and words that was for loving French fries, you know. So a lot of times that little bit of research or study Bible, reading those little texts in there, different situations and things go on, it can sometimes really open your mind up to what is there. That takes us down to verse 25. Let's read down to 45. So you want to start us off, verse 25?
Okay. The woman saith unto him, I know that Messiah cometh, which is called Christ. When he is come, he will tell us all things.
26, Jesus saith unto her, I love that speak unto thee am he. I will speak unto thee am he.
27. And upon this came his disciples and marveled what he had talked with the woman. seekest thou, or why talkest thou with her?
28, the woman then left her water port and went her way into the city and said to the men,
29, come, see a man which told me all things that ever I did. Is not this the Christ?
30. Then they went out of the city and came unto him.
31, in the meanwhile, his disciples prayed him, saying, Master, eat.
32. But he said unto them, I have meat to eat that ye know not of.
33. Therefore said the disciples one to another, Hath any man brought him aught to eat?
34. Jesus saith unto them, My meat is to do the will of him that sent me, and to finish his work.
35. Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest.
36, and he that reapeth receiveth wages, and gathereth fruit unto life eternal, that both he that soweth and he that reapeth may rejoice together.
37, and herein is that saying true, one soweth and another reapeth.
38. I sent you to reap that whereon ye bestowed no labor. Other men labored, and ye are entered into their labors.
That's a great place to stop there for a moment. In 38, I said 45, but we'll stop right there for a minute. Dropping all the way back to 25, you know, Jesus and the woman still here at the well, and the woman saith to him, I know that Messiah cometh, which is called Christ. When he is come, he will tell us all things. Wait a minute, this woman knows this, but man, did you imagine me standing there and hearing verse 26?
Yeah.
Jesus saith unto her, I that speak unto thee am he. Wow. Hold on a minute. You just told me all this stuff.
You just
I
told all things.
Oh, yeah. She understands and knows there's a Messiah coming. And
You just told me.
Jesus let her in on a little secret there, didn't he? Well, guess what? I'm that guy. I'm the one that you're talking about.
Not only told her all the sinful life she had, but then told her and answered her question in a way that says that at some point it's not going to matter here on this mountain or in Jerusalem. It's going to be in spirit. It's going to be anywhere. Dunn told her all things, and then she put 2 and 2 together there. And then he not only, when she put 2 and 2 together, he didn't just go, well, he said, yeah.
But ain't this God so much in this whole story? I mean, look at the Bible. Who does he pick? I think when he picked King David, went through all the other brothers, the big mighty warriors, and he goes out in the field and gets the old sheep herder that's little, and brings him and makes him king. Now, he could have picked some great, high-statured woman out of Samaria, but guess what, man? He picks one that's been married 5 times. That even probably the Samaritans look down on. The Jews already look down on. So you can imagine what the Jews would have thought of a Samaritan woman that had been married 5 times.
The one in town who, through repentance, has the most to gain.
Yes, and Jesus picks a man.
But it also shows that the Samaritans believed in the coming of the Messiah, that it wasn't just something for Jewish people.
There we go. Opening up the door outside the door.
Well, you can tell that point too. I think that you can also tell that the word is starting to spread around.
Yep.
Because
Ministry.
the Samaritan person's heard about Jesus, and it's already left
Yep.
the Jewish community and starting to move out.
Yeah, and that, if you fall back and really look into it, you know, as you mentioned that here, as part of the reason of the route they took also, you know, Jerusalem's not ready just yet.
Yeah.
You know, so that's, because he'd done been there, and there was talk going around, he'd taught some, and and things he'd done in the temple and all this stuff's going on. And we'll hear about that later in the chapter too, so. In verse 27, and upon this came his disciples and marveled that he talked with a woman. Huh. See, now the disciples show up, just as the woman marveled that he's talking to them. Well, all those things, the disciples know all those different things. Don't talk Samaritan, don't talk to a woman, all these different things. They marveled that he talked to this woman.
But,
Yeah.
but they didn't question him.
That's it.
Because they knew by then that he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't know. That's the other half of that verse is, you know what? They never even asked a question. They never rolled up and said,
What was that
come
all
on,
about?
Jesus. Up here talking to some woman.
What's that?
Yeah. You know, they never even questioned it. Verse 28 says, the woman then left her water pot and went away into the city and said to the men, come and see a man which told me all things that I ever did. Is not this the Christ? You think about this woman, and I love the note that in this verse that says that the woman that then left her water pot.
Now Jesus has something to go water.
Yeah. She's got the living water.
Yeah.
She don't, you know, ultimately, she's still gonna need that water ultimately in her life, but that water wasn't a worry then. It took that worry away from her. She dropped it all and left it there, and guess what? She went and told everybody down there. She wanted to spread the word, and you believe it. I have found the man. Is this not the Christ?
And then earlier in the chapter where she tells him he doesn't have anything to get water with. And when she left her water pot, now he can get water.
Yep,
And proved her wrong again.
you're right.
Using the water pot wasn't really all that important, Paul. So.
Right.
Verse 31, in the meanwhile, the disciples prayed him, saying, Master, eat. But he said unto them, I have meat to eat that ye know not of. Therefore said the disciples one to another, If any man brought him a pot to eat? You know, the disciples are standing here, man, we're trying to get him to eat. We know, they probably knew the schedule or the timeline of when he ate last. And I imagine it's been a while.
And they had left him to go get meat.
Yeah.
To go get food.
For that purpose.
Yeah.
And they understand the earthly need of need to eat.
It's more than just the disciples at the well at this point, though, isn't it? If you look at verse 30.
Yeah. I don't know how much time lapsed in between that, but where the woman went back to the city, people came. Then they went out of the city and came unto him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they had already, I would this is just my mind thinking, but in my mind thinking of the timeline, as soon as that woman dropped and ran off, they probably moved in with, because what do? We show up to somebody in a time of need, we immediately want to help. We want to do something. So in my mind, the thought that the disciples would have had, as soon as she drops the pot and runs off, what need can I meet for Jesus? I know he's hungry. I'm trying to get him to eat. But you may be right too, Gabe. There may be a pile of people there.
Well, it looks like there's a gap in between 28 to 30 because it shows that she dropped the water spot and took off.
Mm-hmm.
And then 29, it's her telling, come see a man. She's telling people in the city to come see a man. And then in 30, they went out into the city to come see him.
Yeah, it's down 39, which we quit reading on 38 is when it really
Well, it
gets
kind of
into
makes me
the
feel like that, when she left and went back to tell them and they're on their way, then the disciples start talking to him saying, you need to eat.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're there to rest for a little while. So they're probably gonna be there for a while. She ran into the city, told them they,
Yeah. But you know what? He is not worried about eating. Jesus kind of knows he's got a more of a heavenly dinner coming, headed that way.
Heavenly ham?
Yeah.
No. I like parlay.
You know, verse 34, Jesus saith unto them, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me, and to finish his work.
so his food is sharing the gospel.
Yeah. He knew he had a job to do, and that was ultimately his goal, what time he was here on the earth. 35 says, say not ye that are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. But behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest. And he that reapeth receiveth wages, and gathereth fruit unto life eternal, that both he that soweth and he that reapeth may rejoice together. And herein is that saying true, one soweth and another reapeth. I sent you to reap that where ye bestowed no labor. Other men labored, and ye entered into their labors. And that's kind of, well, it's God that brought the point up of the people being there as Jesus, the disciples was talking to Jesus. Because as I've read this right here, and I could just see Jesus standing up this well, and he's talking to the disciples, and he tells them, you know what? Turn and look, the fields are white. I can just see all these Samaritans running through the field, wearing some kind of white clothes or something. And, you know, that's his harvest, you know, it's all those people running to him. And now, that's just what I envision in my head through reading the story, you know. But I always got that, you know, as they get to that point right there, you know, that all these Samaritans is just, oh my gosh, this woman's come and told us this, and they're excited. I want to go see. Because, hey, this woman's been married 5 times. I'm not real sure trust her or not, but still excited to go see if this is true or not. And, you know, Jesus finishes it up there with, you reap what you sow. But he talks about the guys, the disciples that went into the city to get the meat and whatever they had to eat there. But he tells them there in that last verse, I sent you to reap whereon ye bestowed no labor. Other men labored, and ye entered into their labors. You know, and that's just as, you know, I brought up the church and the building. It was the labor of those first people that started this. I assume was probably from here to right behind Teddy Lynn. First building. That's how big a church was. And somebody else labored and done this. Somebody else labored and done that. And, you know, it's all that. But we've entered into the place to worship now, or other men labored. Yes, we've labored. You might have been out here and sanded drywall or painted or hung some trim or, you know, whatever. There's been labor go into it, but we still came into this with other people's labor, you know, and it gives us that place of worship. And so we all entered that in together. You know, just as the disciples went to get meat, they done nothing for whatever they got. But they entered in, somebody else did. You know, it's just like we ate fried squash the other evening. I didn't plant it. I didn't pick it. Only thing I had to do is get it out the pew. I sliced it up and fried it. Or Sarah sliced it up and fried
I was
it.
gonna say, who
I really, the only thing I really entered into was just, I had to get it on my fork and put it in my mouth. So, you know.
You bestowed no labor.
Yeah. So, you know what, I entered in on that,
Amazing.
Well, yeah, Mason worked on that too, but you know, all that labor that went into it, and, you know, that's, Jesus ultimately, he, think of the labor that he put into our salvation, what he did for us on the cross, and we joined right in with him. He says it's word, because if you think about it, we're joint heirs with Christ. That means equal. Everything he's got, I've got. Equal.
And
We're heirs.
when we give our testimony or witness to someone, we're planting a seed. And we may never see that person grace the doors of this church ever. But later on in life, you might find out, or you may not find out, that person ended up going to church. That person ended up getting saved. Someone reaped what was sowed there.
Definitely.
And God wins either way.
Anybody got any comments on that?
I just gotta say, I love how Christ does stuff. Especially when folks say stuff like, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's not done around here. We don't do that kind of thing. That's, you shouldn't associate with them. You know, anything that people kind of, they get whispery about and they get, he turns it right around and says, watch me. And not only watch me, but then follow me. And this chapter is a good example of that. A really good example of that.
It, you know, definitely take us out of our comfort zone too, you know. This was, I'm sure, not the comfort zone for the disciples of even either. I thought about that as I read the study, that even them going into Samaria to buy something to eat, to find something to eat, they probably really didn't want to do that either.
They might have had a time of it.
Very well, could have, yes.
One goeth and witness to somebody and don't reap anything, another one comes by and witness and sees somebody saved, they both rejoice together
Mm-hmm.
over the one saved.
Yeah. Tell you what, if you think about how far they travel on foot, if you ever just sit and, I was gonna, maybe I need to get a computer or something so I can make PowerPoints or something, but as I read through this, because I was looking at the map in the Bible, I thought about the time that they spent just walking and the amount of miles traveled and different things in between point A to point B to get to where they're going. It's amazing. You know, just as they was in, they started off here, I'm not sure, in Samaria, but Sachar, and then you look at how far Galilee is away from that on a map. It's a great distance. It's amazing how they got around and how many people they would have told about this and different things, and how much power Jesus had that the Samaritans would even come and listen to Jesus.
It's an hour and 5 minutes from Jacob's Well into Samaria. And that's what,
Well, just from the well to Samaria.
that's what this says.
I got that on the map there.
Yeah.
It's a long way.
If you're walking,
between-
it's 7 hours and 16 minutes.
From the well to
That's
Samaria?
what that's,
Well, I mean, yeah, that's probably right too. See, that's what I say, when you really dig into Bible study and you just think about it, you put into,
so it's 14 hours and 14 and a half hours or more
yeah.
to go into Samaria and then come back.
He came from Judea, right?
Or was
Well,
it?
we're, on this one, you're talking about the woman from the
The
well,
woman,
to go tell them about
Yeah.
Jesus,
Yeah.
and then come back, yeah.
Just like our Jacob as well.
So it's just amazing. You know, we think about it in our lives and our lifestyle now. You know, what was the first time? What was you looking at, Lynn? Driving
minutes, but walking is 7 hours and 16 minutes, 7 hours and 16 minutes.
Yeah, man, that's like going here to Beckley in the car, I guess, pretty much. It takes about an hour or something to get there, so it's amazing just the travel and the things that went into effect and how they done it. I'm gonna leave the water pot and go 7 hours to tell
Well,
these
and
people
not only
about
that, you're
Jesus.
gonna carry that water. That's gonna be heavy for 7.5 hours.
Yeah. She's probably in a hurry. I don't need this water pot anymore. I got some of that living water. Well, what do you say we pick up on verse 39 next week and should probably enter the rest of that, maybe start with chapter 5. The last of the chapter is where Jesus heals the nobleman's son, so it's good reading. You get a chance, read into it. Study it. And I don't mind one bit if somebody's got comments to throw in there with me, so. Which I think we know that here, but we'll pick up in 30 minutes. Sorry. We're right down, wrong. All right. The light in him still outside. It's all right. Y'all wanna see what? We wanna, let's get another song, we'll practice another choir song or something. We'll talk y'all into this choir thing. 23. What song's 23?
Yes, no idea. I'm speaking easier on it.
What's 23?
Never heard of it. See 29.
I will certainly.
29. We probably did 29, that's what one I did up on. Well, we'll stand and sing, page 29. If you got something to pray about, the altar's always open. We all get to
Crazy to see y'all, that many people come from now.
Oh, yeah. A lot of work. Let's just remember Sundays, we'll have morning service, then we'll have dinner after church. It is, like a picnic style thing, so,
Finger food.
finger foods, things like that. Then we'll go to the nursing home. I did, speak with the nursing home and, they said we could come at 2 o'clock, so I kinda arranged time to be there at 2 o'clock. Usually we're done and just wasting time till 2:30 anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and go at 2 and then give us extra time there or whatever happens, with that, so, but yeah, we'll show up at 2 at the nursing home. I believe that's,
Helps on the task, right?
what is it?
Help.
Oh, yeah, August 10th, the evening of August 10th, which is Sunday evening, Help Ministries will be here. That's a ministry that we donate to, that we, you remember, last year we went to Doninger Church, Laurel Fork. The year before that, we went to Jody. It's our year to host it, as those 3 churches, they'll come. But there'll be some, if you get a chance, it's good to come and listen to. They've got some great testimonies. And that evening, we'll take up an offering for, there'll probably be 2 guys that come and give their testimonies, and usually they take up an offering for those 2 guys' ministry. It'll go to Help Ministry, but, we'll take up an offering, special offering that evening. And I'm just saying that to let everybody know in case they want to give to that night. Or you can make arrangements and have somebody else put it in there, whatever, but, just let everybody know. Yep, sounds good?
Which I was just thinking, it's nice to see the church go up when the young people get together.
Amen, yeah. It is feel the church out. That's good. We know God's blessings. Thank God for that. All right, kids.
Come on, Christina. Come on.
Anybody wants to come on up?
All right, you start.
All right.